What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hello, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pools, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome this Saturday afternoon. I'm so glad you could join me. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Glad to see you there. Taryn, how you doing, brother? Let's go. Let's have a wonderful show. You already know. Now, here's the deal, guys. There's a few things we're going to talk about. Not so much football, of course, as you guys may already know now that the regular season is over. The Kansas City Chiefs have claimed their Super Bowl this past year, and congratulations to them. Congratulations to the 49ers for making it this far, but unfortunately, they're starting to look like they're losing it a little bit, okay? I mean, actually, I want to talk about that subject, actually, if we can, for a second, guys. So for all of you who watched the Super Bowl, do me a favor and tell me what your honest opinion was about the Super Bowl in the comments. I've been seeing a lot of different things that people have had to say about it, both good and bad, of course. There's a lot to unpack there, and then we didn't do it last week, so let's go ahead and do it this week. So, for reference, in my opinion, first things first, I like both teams, okay? Historically speaking, I've always thought that both of these teams were two of the better teams that the NFL had to offer. I became a 49ers fan at a young age, watching them play football with, watching highlights, I should say, of Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Mike Sherrard, Dwight Clark, Harry Sidney, number 24, if you guys remember him, Harris Barton, number 30, you know, that all-pro offensive line, Harris Barton, I believe, Jesse Sapporo, like, just so many different gifted players on that team that I was able to learn so much from, and that's how I fell in love with the 49ers from back in the day, but this, again, was late 80s, early 90s. The Chiefs, on the other hand, well, if you're a 49ers fan, you watched Joe Montana, and then Joe Montana went to the Chiefs. So then you watch Joe Montana play for the Chiefs. And that's actually how I end up liking the Chiefs, because I was a Joe Montana fan, right? So that's kind of where my loves for those two teams stem. Like I said, with the Chiefs, it's more so just a like of a team. It's not like this is a team that Tampa Bay or the 49ers have really run into very consistently throughout history. So as a result, I have no reason to dislike them, right? Not like, no shade, but not like the not 49ers, but the Ravens or the Ravens. I love the Ravens too, actually. I mean the Eagles. I'm sorry. Too many birds in the NFL, guys. But as far as the birds that, we don't like, Eagles, Falcons, because they're a division rival. The Saints, of course, Carolina, all division rivals. So I can't really genetically like those teams. But that's why I want to give you a reference to what that Super Bowl meant to me. Fast forward all these years, we have two young guys holding it down there for both of those teams. So Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick played a good game. He played a good game. I'm not going to call it a great game. He played a good game. He was able to rally his team. But one thing that he did in this Super Bowl that I really enjoyed that he didn't do in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay was he put the team on his back late in the third, early in the fourth. He started running the ball, just going out and doing it himself. And that's something that I admire about players, is that when you as a quarterback or you as a receiver or a running back can just say, listen, give me the ball, I'm going to put this team on my back and we're going to make it happen. We've seen different instances of that happen. Of course, the most legendary would probably be Barry Sanders, because who was Detroit without Barry? Another example would be Terrell Davis. If you guys remember Terrell Davis in the Super Bowl, I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns against the was it against the Atlanta or was it against the Packers? One of those Super Bowls he had 3 rushing touchdowns. That's the point I'm trying to make, guys. And that's an example of what I mean. Adrian Peterson, another example, and now here we see Patrick Mahomes doing it from the quarterback perspective, which we saw Lamar Jackson do that all year long too, right? So I really think that was a really great aesthetic for the NFL. However, something that I don't think was a great aesthetic was the way that the game was called. Unfortunately, guys, I have to call a spade a spade. The Chiefs were called for the most holding penalties throughout the regular season, and yet they have not been called for a holding penalty in a single Super Bowl that they've played in. To my knowledge, they have played in. Now, for the last 3 Super Bowls specifically, they haven't been called with a holding penalty. The reason why that bothers me is because in order for Patrick to be able to do these magical things have to align, right? Because he couldn't do that against Tampa Bay. So when you see things aligning, such as, well, the refs just calling a bit of a slanted game, it becomes hard to enjoy. So that was something else I want to talk about. But there's a bigger issue facing the 49ers than the referees, I think, personally speaking, because what I saw in that Super Bowl was Kyle Shanahan choked, guys. He choked in a major way. It was a very depressing offensive performance by the 49ers in the second half. And as somebody, like I said, I'm going to call a spade a spade. The refs made the game, not fun, but the 49ers beat themselves, guys. Whether the NFL is rigged or not, the 49ers beat themselves. They played absolutely terrible in the second half. I'm not sure what this 49ers team was trying to accomplish. I don't know what Kyle Shanahan was thinking, but we have this saying called, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it, right? So I think that the 49ers are going to have to either go back to the drawing board, or Kyle Shanahan is going to have to maybe take a step back, because this is the second time we've seen him fumble a Super Bowl in overtime as well, guys. For the record, in case y'all didn't know, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons when they blew that 25-3 lead, or I think it was 25 or 28, 25-3 lead against the Patriots. He was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. Okay? It's absolutely depressing when you look at the history of the Super Bowls, okay, 50 plus, and there have been 2 overtime Super Bowls, and this man has lost both of them. Okay, 28-3, perfect, thank you, Terry. But you guys see where I'm coming from with this, right? Turn me up. If you're going to play in a Super Bowl, much less go to overtime and lose twice, I have some news for you. I don't think you're him. It's one thing to go to Super Bowl and lose, okay? Bounce back, come back better, whatever the case may be. But when you go to overtime twice, and you were winning both of those games comfortably. I mean, maybe not so comfortably with this 49ers one because you got Patrick on the other side. But let's be realistic. There are people that are normal human beings right now. There are high school coaches that could have won those games. And I'm not saying that to hate. I'm saying that because when you have the level of talent that you had first with Atlanta, if you guys remember prime Matt Ryan, Julio Jones was cracked. He was a nutcase. Okay, that Atlanta defense was extremely slept on and played tremendous throughout that year. Not to mention, this is only your second appearance in the Super Bowl, and in your last appearance in the Super Bowl, you got smashed 52-17 by the Broncos. You would have thought that there would have been some type of motivation, some type of elevation to take place. No, Kyle Shanahan, as Taryn just put it, is Kyle Shanahan. Or can't, I should say. Kyle Shanahan can't. The guy just, he choked so hard. Brock Purdy also is somebody we need to talk about, okay? Excuse me. Do we think that Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback? After this past Super Bowl, my answer is a resounding no. One thing that these elite quarterbacks have, and for reference, I'm going to give you some elite quarterbacks right now in the NFL. The first person that comes to mind when I think elite, barring this AFC Championship game debacle, is Lamar Jackson. Again, I was talking about it earlier. Lamar just has the unique ability to say, all right, team, get on my back and let's go. And we're just going to move forward. Lamar has the ability to do that. And even though that they were shooting themselves in the foot, not Lamar's fault, more so his receivers' fault more than anything. I'm definitely going to put that on the receivers. Because you have 2 touchdowns that came off the board because receivers can't use their head. All right? Well, a receiver and a tight end. But when you look at what Lamar has been able to do, the man's been nothing short of phenomenal. Okay? Absolutely phenomenal. If it's not for those mistakes, the Ravens go to the Super Bowl and they smash the 49ers because that 49ers team wasn't going to beat the Ravens the way that they were playing. So, and that's just the fact of it. Here's a few more elite quarterbacks for you, okay? Another person that comes to mind, Josh Allen. I have to put Josh Allen in that conversation because on paper, Josh Allen has a wonderful team, but what we don't realize is the gap differential between player-to-player aspects. You have Stephon Diggs as your number 1 wide receiver, and then after that, you go to Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is a great wide receiver, but he's not Stephon Diggs. Okay, he's not Stephon Diggs. We've seen Stephon Diggs do it time after time after time again. Okay, same thing on the defensive side of the ball. There's so many good players in specific areas, but their counterpart, like say the outside linebacker position, once Von Miller went down, it just becomes questionable. Right? Defensive line is scary though, but you gotta be there everywhere, right? Let's be clear about this. If you're gonna go play in a Super Bowl or AFC and NFC Championship game, you've got to be there all like completely as a cohesive unit. And that was something that I have yet to see in that example of the Bills. But Josh Allen himself, elite, okay? Another example, I want to get out of the AFC, so let's go to the NFC. What's a great example of a quarterback who can put the team on his back, but in the NFC? Before this past playoff season, I would have said Jalen Hurts. Unfortunately, Jalen has proven that he basically can't do it unless he has stars, right? And that's kind of a sad thing. I would have said Dak Prescott, but the same thing about Dak Prescott. I think he is a great quarterback. I am not ready to call him elite because in order to be elite, you have to win the games that matter. Historical reference would be, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, guys who are able to get over those humps, and especially against difficult competition, okay? Brock Purdy is not elite. He is a game manager at best, okay? His decision-making is very, very hesitant. When he has the read, he takes it. But in areas where I'm looking at him and I just say, run the ball, Brock. I get it, you're a quarterback, and that's not always the first option. But the greats will sit there and do what they... Listen, for crying out loud, Brad Johnson ran the ball in the Super Bowl against the Raiders in 2002, okay? When I tell you it was the ugliest run I've ever seen, it wasn't even a run. It was more like a slow motion movie about a bad guy chasing a good guy, okay? But realistically speaking, it was effective. That's what matters. And then we would go on to score a touchdown that very same drive. Are you kidding me? Like, Brock Purdy is a game manager at best, and I don't think he will return to the Super Bowl. I don't think this 49ers team will return to the Super Bowl after what I have seen here in this past Super Bowl. Because yes, although they will get better, perhaps, unfortunately, there seems to be something else that's in the way. If you guys remember that one song from the 90s, by, what was it, Nirvana, Something in the Way? Yeah, it's like that, right? There's something in the way, some type of invisible void, and that's my thought process on what happened there. But congratulations again to the Chiefs. My heart goes out to the people who are unfortunately at that parade during that unfortunate situation. And, I can't imagine, especially being from a city where we've won Super Bowls. For our last Super Bowl, we had a boat parade. So it's one of those things where, like, when you read about it or you see the video, about the shooting that took place there, guys, it's really heartbreaking because you think, dang, that could have been my city. That could have been my team, So prayers go out to them. I hope everybody is okay. All the injured personnel that are okay. And again, my heart goes out to the super fan who lost her life during that situation. And hopefully this is the first and last time we'll ever see of this situation. Now, Taryn, you got a great point there, my friend. Shanahan should not have abandoned the run in an effective manner. I said this to my dad. Dad, you can verify this. I thought the 49ers would win the Super Bowl, and the reason why I thought they would win the Super Bowl is because of C-Mac. When Kyle Shanahan tells you he wants C-Mac to touch the ball 30 times out of the backfield, and then he doesn't, and you lose, there's like that awkward silence where somebody who knows something wants to say something, but nobody dares say it because of how assertive and aggressive it may come across. And this is an example of one of those things. I agree with that 100%. The 49ers live and die by the run. You got to remember, he doesn't have Tom Brady back there. He doesn't have Peyton Manning back there. He doesn't have, Patrick Mahomes back there, who can sit there and comfortably go through the reads and improvise if necessary. Brock does not improvise. He doesn't, okay? He hardly uses his wheels at all at this point. That's a problem. Because the greats at the quarterback position, they improvise consistently. Okay? They don't just know how to stand in the pocket and be a statue. They also know how to say, hey, this isn't working. Let me go do something with my legs. Hell, guys, look at Baker Mayfield, who was snubbed out of Comeback Player of the Year. This man literally at times put Tampa Bay on his back and said, 4 million or otherwise. Like, oh man, there are too many other quarterbacks that are out there right now in the NFL that if they played in Brock Purdy's position would have won that ball game, and you can't tell me otherwise. Period. The end. And that's where I'm gonna stick. That's where I'm gonna stick my fork when it comes to this lasagna. Okay, because realistically, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, Kyle Shanahan let the 49ers down. The defense played immaculate till the end, and you can't expect them to play perfect for 60 minutes because, let's be honest, nobody can do anything perfect for 60 minutes, except for maybe Shaolin monks, but that's a different ball game. Terrence says, good things happen when you run up the middle. I get CMC had a fumble, but so did Isaiah Pacheco. And that's another perfect statement. That's something else I agree with 100%. What people don't understand about football is there's this thing called gap integrity, right? So gap integrity in the game of football really comes down to the trench warfare that is offensive line versus defensive line. When you are able to manipulate the line in which your running back has either one of two things, okay? A solid option A, okay? And what that means is your offense is geared towards running to a specific area. Like, for instance, the Buccaneers have Tristan Wirfs, right? Arguably the best offensive tackle in all of football right now. It's a no-brainer that we're going to run behind him. You see what I'm saying? So if I'm the offensive coordinator of Tampa Bay, I'm going to gear my run game towards running behind Tristan Wirfs because I trust that guy with my life. You see what I'm saying? Now, the 49ers have an offensive line essentially that's a top 5 in the league right now. Okay? So for them not to be able to create those openings and that ability, again, goes back to Kyle Shanahan not doing his job properly, first and foremost. Secondly, the second thing that gap integrity provides when you have a great offensive line is options, okay? Now, what does that mean? You look at running backs in the great running backs in the history of the NFL. I'm going to name you a couple, okay? Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson. I would dare even say Walter Payton, even though Walter's offensive line wasn't that great, just like Detroit's wasn't. He always had options. He could go up the middle. He could go out to the right. He could shoot the B gap. He could create space, bounce around, jump back a few yards, and go around the outside linebackers, okay? Chris Johnson, if you guys remember him, CJ2K. What's his name? Oh, my goodness. Thinking about Le'Veon Bell. Okay, guys, that's a reference there for what I think when it comes down to some of the running backs having that gap integrity and being able to utilize it in more than one form or fashion. Kyle Shanahan's offensive line was not able to do any of that in the second half, and that, I think, goes back to the play calling. Because as an offensive play caller, you have to look at the defense and say, okay, they adjusted to this, let me do this instead. Right? And we do that in any game, right? Doesn't matter, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, tennis, whatever, okay? So, I really want to have that dialogue with you guys. Obviously, like I said, Super Bowl only comes around once a year, so I definitely want to dedicate some time towards that before we wrap off here. Obviously, there's not a whole lot to talk about in the NFL now that the season's over, but I do have a little bit of information for you guys about Tampa Bay, which I'm going to go ahead and give you right before we get into our first break of the evening. But thank you guys for indulging me there for a quick moment about that Super Bowl. Definitely, like I said, want to hear what you guys had to say. You know, and I think that obviously this may not be the Chiefs' last rodeo. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make it back within the next 2 years. I don't think they're going back next year. They're not three-peating. It's just not happening. Let's see. San Francisco injuries and not using C-Mac enough was the difference. Absolutely. Yeah, Dad. I agree with you. You know, like I said, if the 49ers were going to win this game, it was going to be C-Mac who did it for him. It wasn't going to be Brock. You're not going to put the hands of the Super Bowl into Brock Purdy. He's not Tom. He's not Peyton. He's not Drew. He's not Aaron. He's not any of those guys. But you know who is one of those quote-unquote guys, and I'm using the air quotations as I say this? C-Mac. Especially if you followed his career from Stanford till now. If you haven't seen his family tree, it's absolutely ridiculous. Everybody in his family is an athlete. Everybody. Mom, dad, brothers, everybody. Okay? So that was one of the things, but I agree with you, Dad. San Francisco's injuries definitely hurt, especially with them losing Greenlaw on a no-contact play. Once that happened, my heart kind of dropped a little bit. I was like, okay, I think the 49ers are losing this game. That's their second best defensive player, and he's out. That's no bueno at all. Excuse me, my apologies, guys. Anyway, as far as Tampa Bay goes, for those of you who are looking for this information on what to expect from some of the best players that Tampa Bay has to offer, look forward to the Bucs franchise tagging Antoine Winfield Jr., our stud safety who was robbed also out of Defensive Player of the Year. I personally like the move. I think I would have franchise tagged Tristan Wirfs first, realistically speaking, and then I would have probably given Antoine Winfield whatever he wanted, just because I want to also be able to give Tristan Wirfs whatever he wants as well. But I get it. Perhaps they think they're going to save a little bit more money with Tristan than they will with Antoine, so they'll sign Antoine next year to a long, because at the end of the day, let's just be honest. If you're Jason Light, there's no way in hell you're letting Tristan walk, you're not letting Antoine walk, you're not letting Mike Evans walk, and you're not letting Baker Mayfield walk, okay? As much as I like Devin White, he's going to be the guy that loses out in this scenario, okay? When you go out and you demand $100 million, all right? You say you want a $100 million paycheck, and then you play the way he did last year, I'm sorry. That's going to leave an incredibly bad taste in people's mouths, and I think that's exactly what's taking place here in Tampa. Albeit, if he wants to sign a one-year deal, I would do that. I would absolutely give Devin White, some money to come back for a year. But he's got to want it himself. I'm not saying that he's dead in the water, because he's not. Still a tremendous ball player. But this past year, he got in his own head, and it showed. Okay? Realistically speaking, that should not work for any franchise. All right? Chief among them, our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So look forward to seeing that very soon, guys. Also, the Buccaneers can save $7 million if they sign Mike Evans to a long-term deal. So there's some dead cap space due from reorganizing Mike's original contract extension that he had a few years ago when Tom Brady came here to make space for more money to sign more players. Now that be the case, they're actually on the up and up because Tampa Bay wants to sign Mike Evans. The question is for how long and how much. And I'm going to give you guys a clue as to what's going on here. Mike Evans hasn't signed with any other team, nor has he interviewed with any other team, due to the fact that I'm 100% sure he wants to stay a Buccaneer. And we, the city of Tampa Bay, all of Central Florida, wants him to stay here in Tampa Bay. All right? perhaps the greatest draft choice in Tampa Bay history, and without the shadow of a doubt, the best draft choice since Jason Light has been here. This is one of those things where we're looking at Mike and we're saying, look, man, what do you want? What do you want? You know, because at this point, it doesn't matter what number he says, we should give it to him. All right. And then also with Mike Evans being re-signed, Baker Mayfield would be sure to follow. So the task would go Mike Evans 1, Baker Mayfield 2, and then after that you kind of just go from there. Probably, like I said, Tristan Wirfs will be number 3. And then for outside reference, the Buccaneers need to bring in some help defensively and offensively, realistically speaking. Don't be surprised if you see the names Dalton Schultz. And don't be surprised if you see Jordan Whitehead return to Tampa Bay. Jordan Whitehead's contract has been voided by the New York Jets, which means he is now a free agent. He played in Tampa Bay before. He actually broke out here in Tampa Bay before and was a very key piece in our Super Bowl run a few years ago. And in my opinion, I think he's in his prime. And it would be a no-brainer to sign him to at least a 3-year contract, bring him back home, and get back to work. Like, let's just call it like what it is. You know, Antoine Winfield's been one of the best. He's been a top 10 safety, I think, this past year. Perhaps even top 5, to be honest with you, the way he played in New York this past year. And I don't think that there's a more suitable person to bring back here to Tampa Bay. So that's the little bit of news that I had for you guys coming out of Tampa Bay. Of course, the Jags in Miami facing different issues. Most of them are trying to retain their star players as well. But don't be surprised if they do it. Neither one of those teams, I think, are really lacking for cap space this year. I think that Jacksonville has a little bit more than Miami. I have to go back and recheck the numbers, to be honest with you. But don't worry, I will have that information to you next week as we get closer and closer to NFL free agency and the draft. Those are going to be 2 pivotal things to pay attention to during this offseason for all 3 of these teams, which 2 of them made the playoffs, and of course the Jazz got knocked out in the final week by dropping the ball. So, but these are 3 teams that are playoff bound teams and have had a history of being in the playoffs the last few years. So you're going to want to pay attention to see what happens with those teams, who they sign, and what kind of money they use to do it. And then, like I said, as we get closer to the draft, I'll have some draft choices that I think would suit these teams. And then we'll go from there, guys. But thank you for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host. And as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, don't touch that dial. Leave it locked here. We'll be back in 2 minutes with some NBA, NHL, college basketball. And then we'll wrap it up with UFC 298 coming on tonight, guys. Thank you for having it locked here. We'll be right back.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up? It's your man Bishop, the voice of This Is KC Sports, the show where we go over the Chiefs, the Royals, KC Current, Sporting KC, MU, and oh yeah, if we got time, we'll even throw in some of that KU stuff for my people on the 913 South. Come and hang out with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
On your only station for all your sports needs, IE Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, brought to you, of course, by IE Sports Radio. Again, your direct feed for all that is sports, guys. Welcome back. Quick question for you guys. Do you read? If you do read, and I'm only saying this because it just kind of came to my attention, I thought this would be interesting. There's a book out there, guys. This is not necessarily directed towards sports, but it's something that has a a connection to it, if you will. But there's a book out there called The Midnight Library. Let me be honest with you guys, I cherish this book. I'm almost done reading it, and let me tell you, it's a phenomenal book. Go check it out if you haven't had the opportunity. Essentially, it's about a young lady who experiences some things in life, some troubles that push her into a twilight zone, if you will. And in the twilight zone, she learns of her life's library, which essentially is a physical library with a bunch of different books that lives a different version of her life each book. So she picks a book up, and there's different decisions that were made in this life than the one that she's currently living. And it's her personal midnight library. So if you guys have ever experienced anything such as that, I would encourage you guys, go read the book. It's written by Matt Haig, an international bestseller and a New York Times bestseller. Absolutely phenomenal book, I have to admit. One of the better books that I've ever read. So if you haven't checked that book out, I think that there's a lot of lessons for us to learn there, collectively as individuals and as groups of people that are tied into different things, such as sports. So just want to throw that egg out there for those of you who like to read. Shout out to my sister, because she's kind of the reason why I read now. She's the ultimate reader. So yeah, I think that would be great for everybody. But yeah, just a heads up on that. Now back to the sports, right, guys? Back to the sports. So, first things first, we're about to talk NBA news, and if you didn't know, today is, this is All-Star Weekend. Started yesterday, of course. So if you're looking for something to watch tonight and you're thinking basketball, well, look no further. This is the best weekend to be watching basketball, aside from the NBA Finals, of course. And so I'm going to be checking that out. I'm going to be watching this along with UFC 298 tonight. That's what's on my schedule. I don't know what's on yours, but if you're looking for something, definitely check out that All-Star game. Should be a very interesting All-Star game. And dunk contest, The All-Star game, I believe, is tomorrow night, and then the dunk competition is tonight, along with the skills competition, three-point shooting and all that wonderful stuff. So just a heads up on that, guys. As far as the NBA is concerned, this is one of the most interesting things you guys will ever see, and I am super jacked to talk about it. And yes, before I get into that, guys, for all intents and purposes, Dad, thank you for mentioning that. I did already speak to Mom, but today is my mother's birthday, you guys. So shout out to Mom, the woman who is responsible for my creation, along with the man who is responsible of it. But right now we want to focus on Mom. Shout out to you, Mom. I love you so much. You have been an angel to me. You have been a gift literally sent from heaven to me. And I couldn't have gotten this far in life without you. She, between her and my dad, they are my rocks. They are the people that I lean on, that I call to. And as far as I'm concerned, I have the best parents in the world. So thank you, Mom, for all the love, for all the support throughout all these years. And, I pray for many more birthdays for you to come. And I can't wait to see you in person and talk to you again. If you're listening to this, happy birthday, Mom. I love you. Now then, let's get back to business, guys. Definitely want to share that moment, though. But the Heat and the Magic. Now, for the last 2 weeks, really almost the last month, this is insane, guys, okay? I've been coming on here and I've been telling you what the record is for the Magic and for the Heat. And for the better part of this last month, maybe even longer, to be honest with you, it's been the exact same record, right? Guess what? It hasn't changed, guys. So the Miami Heat are 30-25. The Orlando Magic are 30-25. Both of them have gone so get this right, actually. The Heat are 4-1 in their last 5. The Magic are 3-1 in their last 4. And both teams have been beating the same teams. Interesting, huh? Now, we talked about this before. Dad mentioned last week that this has only happened one other time before, where both the Heat and the Magic made the playoffs. I believe it was in 97. And I think we're on our way to seeing that again. As ironic as that may seem, the Heat are currently sitting in 7th place, and of course the Magic sitting in 8th, with the Heat owning a 2-game tiebreaker between the two. This is an interesting situation, guys. I don't think I saw this coming. I'm not surprised to see both these teams, continuing the struggle, but still finding success. They're, of course, 5 games above 500, which is something that means a lot. But heading into the All-Star break, both teams were able to beat teams that are higher ranked than they are. All right, so let's talk about it. So the Miami Heat were able to beat the 76ers on Valentine's Day. That score was 109-104. Obviously, Joel Embiid not in the lineup for the 76ers. No excuses to be made here, though, because, of course, the Heat are short 2, and yet they were able to come out with the win. So congratulations there, Heat. Good job. Like I said, 4-1 in the last 5. can't be stated out enough. They're playing very good basketball at the moment. They're doing it behind tremendous defense. Bam Adebayo's been everywhere. Jimmy Butler running the floor per the usual. The rest of the guys chipping in when they need to. I think that this is a team that is starting to find, or recreate, I should say, an identity. Of course, I'm always going to stress it. Eric Spoelstra, one of my favorite NBA coaches of all time. Got those boys looking good right now. Hopefully they can continue that after this all-star break and come back rejuvenated better than ever and start to climb above 7 and get closer and closer to a higher ranking seed, which is what we would like to see, along with the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic were able to beat the Knicks. So get this, the Heat beat the 76ers were the 5th ranked team in the East. And then you have the Magic who beat the 4th ranked team in the East. And they beat the Knicks. Also, on Valentine's Day. That score was a 118-100 ball game. Magic looking good again, like I said, 3-1 in their last 4. It doesn't get any easier for them as they move forward. Really, for neither team, I'm not going to sit here and say that one team has it better than the other, but I would say that the Magic have the slightly harder game. They have to go see the Cavs. That game is going to be Thursday, February 22nd at 7 p.m., just in case you're looking for some Orlando Magic basketball to check out. There you go. That's going to be the very next game they play again. Not an easy game. Cavs sitting at 2nd in the East right now, 36-17. Their record is a walking, talking, breathing dragon they got over there in Cleveland. That team looks really, really good, and not a lot of people are talking about it right now, but that could be the team that's the sleeper in the East. Of course, the usual suspects are there, the 76ers, Boston, and Milwaukee, of course, but Cleveland's sitting there eyeballing the playoffs like, listen, guys, y'all sleeping on us, and you shouldn't be, okay? So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cavs do very well. Meanwhile, the Heat have to go visit the Pelicans. That's going to be an interesting game too. The Pelicans sitting at 11 games over 500 at 33-22 record there for them. That game's going to be Friday, February 23rd, 8 p.m. Just in case you want to check out some Miami Heat basketball. That's going to be the next game that they play. So Miami Heat basketball, Friday, February 23rd, 8 p.m. versus the Pelicans. Orlando Magic basketball, Thursday, February 22nd, the day before, 7 p.m. And again, that game's going to be against the Cavs. So good games coming up for both these teams. As far as what's going on with free agency now that we're hitting the halfway part of the season, well, DeLon Wright is signing with the Heat right now. That is the veteran point guard from Washington, I believe he's from. Good signing. Not the greatest. Good nonetheless. Hopefully it can provide some stability there at point guard for the Heat. Somebody that can kind of come in and run the court, run the offense on the court, I should say, without having to, kind of turn and look for instruction a bit much. I think that's kind of the point there behind the signing. I don't see why it's a bad signing. Obviously, it's not like they got Damian Lillard or something, but hey, it's still a decent signing, and I think that's something that we should pay attention to. Hopefully it works out for the Heat, especially in the second half of the season. It's going to be a buyout, so he'll be available for them as soon as possible, which is also good for the Heat. In the meanwhile, the Magic, they're looking for somebody to add to this team to help push this team over the hump. And rumor has it, all right, that the person that they're looking at is Klay Thompson. All right, Klay Thompson would be a very interesting fit for the Orlando Magic. I think he is struggling, but he has enough star power to kind of command whatever he wants for the most part, especially from an Orlando Magic team who is looking good, but again, they're still very, very young team. This is a team that could use some veteran leadership from somebody who's been to multiple finals, somebody who has the pedigree that Klay Thompson has. Could be a very great fit for both of these teams, but we'll have to wait and see how that happens between both sides. Of course, the hot rumor over this past week has been finding a way, or the perhaps the lack thereof, but the interest to do so, teaming up LeBron James and Steph Curry. Let's just be honest, guys, that would be dramatic even now, right? LeBron at 39, 40 years old, still playing like a man possessed, absolutely one of the 5 best players on the planet. If I have my opinion to say, I think he's probably 2 or 3, realistically speaking. He's my favorite player all time. Just after growing and watching him and studying him. And also, guys, for reference, I watched Michael play basketball too. Closer to the tail end of his career. But I watched Michael. I grew up with Michael. I love Michael. I'm a huge fan of Michael. But I come to you with the pureness of heart when I tell you LeBron is that guy. Because, let's be honest, we will never see this again. Ever. This level that this man is playing at and has played at for 20 years, incredible. incredible. Just got to give LeBron his flowers. But that is a very interesting concept of things that you could see coming as far as what's going to happen during the trade deadline. So don't be surprised you see LeBron and that Steph Curry talk heat up. I don't think anything's going to happen with it, but that's a possibility. And of course, like I said, I think for the Magic, Klay Thompson would be the best fit as far as a free agency move, not free agency move, but trade deadline move would be. That could be the move that pushes them over the top and really makes them a threat in the East with a young team that's playing tenacious basketball as the Magic have been. So that's what's going on there in the world of basketball there for our two teams here in Florida. Both teams, like I said, rocking the same record. It's number 7, number 8, respectively in the East. Both these teams, I think, will make the playoffs, which would be cool because, like I said, it hasn't happened in 27 years. So, just for reference, that's pretty freaking cool, guys. That's pretty cool. NHL talk, guys. Let's talk Bolts Panthers. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, Bolts are playing the Panthers, but they're losing. Okay, now for anybody who has the score, if you don't mind throwing that in the comments, I'll go ahead and put it over the show. But guys, the last time I saw the score was 4-1 at the end of the first. Panthers. All right. Now Panthers Bolts have a very interesting rivalry. I would say that the Panthers are one of the teams that are able to find a lot more success against the Bolts, but then again, they are in-state rivalry and team, so you kind of expect that a little bit more than you would from other teams. But like I said, last time I saw it was 4-1 end of the first. Panthers with a comfortable lead there. Panthers also rocking a better record. Currently, these teams are 2-3 in the East, with the Panthers with the higher ranking at 2. The Bolts sitting at 3, struggling to keep that 3 spot, but consistently have been there for the last 4 or 5 years. Something that I like, that you love to see, especially with this Bolts team resurging as it has been. Obviously, injuries have been a problem for this team, but again, still very proud of what these teams have been able to accomplish. So let's take it from the top. Panthers rocking a 35-15-4 record, one of the better records, I should say, in the NHL right now. And the Bolts are rocking a 30-20-5 record, 10 games above 500, something you love to see. But more specifically, they're sticking tried and true to what we do here in Tampa Bay Bolts hockey, and that's play, relatively tremendous defense. Okay, except for today, right? But play tremendous defensive hockey and, a lot of willpower on offense, a lot of chaining scores, right? Because it's something that when this team gets hot, it gets hot. It usually doesn't get hot and then settle down. It usually gets hot, stays hot for a little bit, and then settles down, after a game or two. I wouldn't call us a hot and cold team at all, but I also would not call the Panthers a hot and cold team. Like I said, playing some of the best hockey in the entire NHL right now. Sitting at number 2 in the Atlantic. They're just playing... They're awesome on the puck, guys. I can't knock them and say that they're not. They're awesome on the puck. It is what it is. Of course, injuries aren't hurting them as much as it's hurting Tampa Bay, but it doesn't really matter because next up mentality, right, guys? So, congratulations to the Panthers on playing so well this year. Same thing for the Bolts. I don't know if a lot of people saw this coming from the Bolts, but both of their next games are against the exact same team. They're both playing the Senators. The Senators currently the worst team in the Atlantic, sitting at the 8th spot, rocking a 22-27-2 record. So they're not really a threat, but that doesn't mean to take them lightly. You don't want to go out there and lose to a Senators team that's not playing great hockey right now. They don't have anything to play for at the moment, except for pride. The Bolts and the Panthers both playing for playoff positioning right now, which is a very big deal, as we have seen in history. Usually the teams with decent rankings at the end of the season are the teams that go the furthest. Look at the Bruins, look at the Bolts for reference, right? 2 of the very best to do it in the last 10 years, if you pay attention to that kind of thing. So just for reference, like I said, both teams are going to be playing the Senators coming up. The first team that's going to play the Senators is going to be the Bolts. The Bolts are going to get them Monday, February 19th at 7 p.m. Just in case you're looking for some Bolts hockey, there's going to be a lot coming on Monday night, so be prepared for that. I think I should be watching this game. The only other thing that I have to watch that night will be Monday Night Raw. So I look forward to seeing how our boys do against the Senators. Of course, I believe we will win this game. We have been on fire, though. 3-1 in the last 4, playing really good hockey, staying at floated third, like I said, in the Atlantic. Something else to look out, because, again, both these teams playing the Senators up next. The Senators aren't necessarily playing good hockey, so regardless who wins this game today, somebody should be able to develop some type of momentum, or at least bring the momentum back as they get ready to slide into these next few games moving forward. Of course, the Panthers are going to be playing the Senators the day after the Bolts do, so that's going to be Tuesday, February 20th at 7 p.m. So you got back-to-back, right? You want to check out Florida hockey? Cool. Bolts on Monday, Panthers on Tuesday. get your fill. You know what I'm saying? You guys get the chance to see both of these teams play well. Like I said, the Bolts been hindered by deep playoff runs the last couple of years, and of course injuries that are kind of withering away at the team. But this team with the core still intact for the most part, still playing tremendous hockey, and of course has an entire city behind them. If you didn't know, we do hockey down here. Yeah, it's a tropical paradise, but we also do hockey, okay? One of the most electrifying atmospheres we have to offer down here in South Florida, and it's something that I myself will never forget. I experienced it once before, and I have to admit it was something, like I said, that it's like straight out of a movie, right? It's exactly what it looks like in the commercials, everything, the jumping, the screaming, the beer, whatever it is that you may have seen before. Is exactly what it looks like down here for Bolts hockey. Same thing for the Panthers. Congratulations to both these teams. Both of them looking good. Panthers won 4 straight, and the way it looks like they're about to make 5 straight. Of course, the Bolts, like I said, 3-1 in their last 4 barring this game. So when we get back next week, hopefully we'll be saying the same thing. 3-1 or in the last 4, and it won't be 3-1 for the Bolts if they lose in the last 4. But you get what I'm saying. Hopefully we'll be able to find some success after this game against the Panthers, and then Panthers' continued success. Congratulations to them again, guys. Let's go ahead and slide into college basketball, huh? So college basketball, very interesting, right now to see. So before the season started, the way that the in-state rankings looked was Miami 1. Miami entered the season ranked. Gators 2 with a question mark, not really sure how this team was going to perform. And then Florida State 3 because they're rebuilding. They're not exactly a basketball college. So they were in an area of... how can I say this? They're like in a desert, if you will. Obviously, chance to survive, but which way do you go and how do you get there fast enough, right? And I think that's kind of what FSU's been dealing with. The roles have kind of reversed here. We are approaching March. Now we're in almost past the midway part of February. Guys, the Gators are the best basketball team in Florida right now. Multiple ranked victories so far this year, and to say the least, they're on fire. They're on fire right now. I think they're playing really good basketball, especially in the SEC, as they have opened SEC play last month, and they're doing very, very well for themselves. 18-7 be the record for the Gators right now. Best record in Florida of the Power 5 schools, that is. And I want to stress that fact because, of course, USF is playing tremendous basketball as well. But they have the best record of the Power 5 schools here in Florida. They were able to beat Georgia 14-11. All right, so plus 500 Georgia, the team that's trying to figure it out, just not against my Gators. Like I said, they were able to beat Georgia 88-82 today. That game took place earlier in the day, so luckily we already have the result. Shout out to our boys in the blue and orange getting it done. They're looking really good right now, especially, like I said, multiple ranked wins within the last month, especially against Kentucky and against Auburn is something you love to see. Congratulations, Gators, on figuring out. You guys are looking absolutely phenomenal. Don't let it go to your head, though. Next game against Alabama. Wednesday, February 21st, 7 p.m., just in case you want to watch some blue and orange basketball. I know I do. They're going to be playing Alabama. That's 15th ranked Alabama. Let's go ahead and get another ranked win inside this month, huh? This fiscal month, that is. Obviously, it's not going back to the first, but over the last 30 days. 3-1 in the last 4 says the Gators are playing tremendous basketball. Like I said, they're on fire, guys. Just continue to hammer it home. And, finish strong. Don't live and die outside in three-point land, because when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. And just know how to adjust. Keep up the work in transition. Transition has improved greatly since that first meeting against Kentucky earlier in the season. And I look forward to seeing it to traverse more. I believe that the Gators will only get better from here, and you love to see it. You love to see it. Turn me up, blue and orange. Turn me up, baby. I love to see it, boys. Let's go ahead and talk about the Noles, though. Okay, so the Noles, like I said, nothing has changed with the Noles. They're still the worst team in Florida at the moment. They're rocking a 13-12 record, barely floating above 500. They just lost one to Duke in 9-point fashion. That score was a 76-67 ball game. Again, Duke is ranked 9th. These rankings are a little weird because the Gators have a better record than Duke. Well, on paper, they have a slightly better record by the manage of 2 losses to 2 more wins. But hey, whatever, count your whatever you want it is to count. I think that the Gators might be a better team than Duke at the moment, but Duke is also playing slightly better competition by a smidge, okay, by a smidge, but it's nonetheless still the case. Again, Noles lose to Duke 76-67. Well, that's a mere numbers right there, 76, 67. Okay, well, cool. The next game for them is going to be against Boston College, though. That game's going to be Tuesday, February 20th at 7 p.m. So on the off chance, you see what I did there, off chance, that you're looking to watch some FSU basketball, guys, that's going to be the game to check out against Boston College. Boston College, they're 14-10. They're not a bad team, just not a great team. 4 games above 500 counts for something. So go check that game out if you're looking for some Noles basketball, but beware, they're 1-3 in the last 4, and I don't think they're going to get too much better at this moment. I think the season is starting to wear them down, and that they're starting to look towards what they can do at the end of this season, the beginning of next season, transfer portal, who they're bringing in from high school, things like that, to try and solidify that FSU roster there. But for the time being, Florida State, worst basketball team here in Florida at the moment of the Power 5 schools. Canes, on the other hand, not on the other hand, they're also struggling, okay? So check it out. Canes 15-10 record, slightly better record than the Noles. It just depends on what you're looking at. Realistically, again, these two teams are going to play each other, I think, one more time before the season is up. So, or at least before March, that is. Oh, excuse me, my apologies. The Canes, on the other hand, losing to the same team that will be playing the Noles next week. Yeah, next week. So Canes, Boston College going on right now. If anybody has a score of that game, please throw it in the comments as well for me. Last time I saw it was 77-73. That was 2 minutes to go, and that was like a half hour ago. So let me know, guys, who won that game if you can. I'll see it once we get off live here. But, again, like I said, not the best team, not the worst team on both sides, both for the Canes and for Boston College. However, Boston College seems to be on a bit of a resurgence, especially if they got this win against the Canes. They move over to beat the Noles. That'll give them 2 in a row. I think 3 in a row, actually, if I remember seeing that correctly. And that, they're going to start pushing the envelope there, and they will have surpassed the Canes record-wise at that point, with those two teams coming to a head. The next game for the Canes is going to be against Duke, who obviously just played FSU. You get the trend, guys. These teams, they go down to Florida, they play all the Florida teams, and they go back up and continue on. And so next up for the Canes is going to be Duke. Again, 20-9 be the record for Duke. They're 9th ranked, and that game is coming to you Wednesday, February 21st at 7 p.m. Just in case you want to watch some Canes or Duke basketball, of course, the Duke game versus FSU is already over with, so no waiting on that. This will be a better game to watch anyway. The Canes are a better team. And they're 1-3 in their last 4 as well. So, of course, Canes and FSU both struggling right now with their identity and who they are on the court. As a Gator, you love to see it. As a fan of Florida athletics, you guys aren't representing. All right? Somebody go get USF. Shout out Bulls. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Best start for you guys in program history, if I remember correctly. Very proud to see this team continue its success, and I look forward to seeing you guys get a ranking in the March Madness and tournament. I look forward to seeing you guys perform there, and hopefully nothing but the best comes from that tournament. It's always a big deal for the U.S., something that we love to do here, and it's something that I look forward to. Even though I don't get a chance to really watch a whole lot of the games, because a lot of the games happen like when we're at work, right? But realistically speaking, on my ESPN app, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I follow. Like, I will open my ESPN app and just leave it open, and my battery will be at 20% by 4:30, okay? So just keep that in mind, guys, that March Madness is right around the corner, like I said, and get ready to get your brackets going. I'm not going to do a bracket this year just because with college basketball, they're so unpredictable. Personally speaking, I think that's what makes it fun, but not for me. Not for me. So I'm not going to do a bracket. Okay, maybe I will do. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll see, guys. I don't know. I don't know. But I got one more thing to talk to you guys tonight about, and this is something I'm actually very excited about for those of you who watch MMA. The UFC does have is it the second pay-per-view for this year? I think it is coming your way. It's going to be UFC 298. This is one that I've personally been waiting for. If you watch the UFC and if you've been watching the UFC, then you know that some of these fights are just bonkers, right? So I'm going to start from the ground and go up. Now, I've never really been able to say this guy's name correctly, but it's Davilishi, something like that. I even when I see it and the announcers, Joe Rogan and all them, and they say the name, and I still can't pronounce it. I don't know. It's a very unique name. But he's going to be fighting Henry Cejudo tonight. This is going to be a great fight, guys. If you guys do not know, Henry Cejudo is a gold medalist in wrestling during the Olympics. This guy's an absolute machine. He's a 2-division champion. Most notable, his fights with one of the greatest of all time, Mighty Mouse, was definitely something of a learning experience for him, but something for both of them. I think that Demetrius Johnson is one of the greatest fighters to ever do it. I have him top 5, I think, all time. He, at any point in time, could be the best fighter in the world. So look forward to watching this fight, guys. It's going to be a heavy-handed fight because both these guys have heavy hands. But Cejudo probably has the edge in the wrestling department, so I can't wait to see what happens here. Go check that fight out, and I think Henry Cejudo will be retiring if he does not win this fight. So just keep that in consideration, guys, in case this is his last fight. You want to go check that out. Now, you have Geoff Neal versus Ian Garry. This is a very interesting fight because Ian Garry has gone off to make himself a bad guy. I wouldn't call him a Randy Orton-esque type bad guy, not a guy that you love to hate, just a guy that you just kind of don't like because he's an a-hole. But he's also an undefeated and very talented fighter. Reminds me of a less charismatic Conor McGregor. I think that's who he models his styles after. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to reach that level of skill just due to the fact that prime Conor McGregor was more or less as good as it gets. I've seen people talk about what a prime looks like. For reference, the most dominant primes that I've ever witnessed in martial arts, I would say one would probably be Jon Jones. Okay? You have to give it to John because the people that he faced at one point in time, he faced 4 back-to-back former light heavyweight and middleweight champions, if I remember correctly, and was able to disarm these men with relative ease. I can't tell you how many times I've watched a Jon Jones fight, and he has, as Joe Rogan has once put it, is a man amongst boys when it comes to martial arts, and it's not, for any other reason other than his talent. Yes, he's big, he's lengthy, he's got a lot of fight IQ and skill, but realistically speaking, this guy just makes absolutely great decisions at almost every point in the fight. The few times that we've seen him in fights where he felt like he could lose, he also did plenty enough to win, and that's something I think people don't give him enough credit for because of the fact that he technically has never lost in his mixed martial arts career. That's an example of a prime. Another one would be Anderson Silva, George Rush St. Pierre, one of my original favorite fighters, Chuck the Iceman Liddell. Just there's some guys that I look at and I say, nobody can touch this man. And prime Conor McGregor is one of those people. And Garry, on the other hand, I don't think that that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised if Geoff Neal is able to get the win here and shut down a lot of the hype. That would be really big for him in his career, especially now that he's on a bit of a resurgence. He's been fighting pretty well recently, so hopefully he can continue that trend and just continue to trend upwards. I look forward to seeing how that fight goes. For those two fights, I think I'm gonna go with Geoff Neal over Ian Garry just because I like him a little bit more. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Ian Garry. His verbal tactics aren't exactly the best. All right, let's just call a spade a spade. I think that's what it comes down to. Davalishvili, however you say. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry for butchering your name, my friend. But versus Cejudo, this is gonna be a great game. I'm gonna rock with Cejudo just because I think he's putting that weight on his own shoulders. He wants to prove to himself that he's still the man, or that he still has it. And I think that when fighters do this, I think it elevates their chances for victory. And I think that that's something that will take place for Henry Cejudo. So good luck to both of those men. Co-main event of the evening is going to be Robert the Reaper Whitaker, or Bobby Knuckles as I like to call him, versus Paulo Costa. Here's the thing. I'm a huge Bobby Knuckles fan, but after his performance against our now middleweight champion of the world, DDP, I'm not a big fan of DDP, for the record. I'm going to have to rock with Paulo Costa here. And it's very simple as to why. Robert Whitaker doesn't do well against people bigger than him. He doesn't. Even the second fight against Israel, he fought a good fight, but he thought he won when Izzy just completely outpaced and outstruck him that entire fight. So yeah, he's a great fighter. He's somebody that I'm impartial to. I love his name. I love everything really existence-wise about the man. But unfortunately, in the octagon, he has some holes in his game that he has to rectify if he's going to see a middleweight title, or reclaim the middleweight title, I should say. A win against Paulo Costa would be huge for him right about now, but I just don't see Paulo Costa falling off. Paulo Costa is an absolute juggernaut of a human being. He's absolutely cracked. He's won some huge fights, and also he's somebody that has earned my respect, especially after the fight he had with Izzy. I have to admit that Paulo Costa has been on a resurgence. He hasn't let it dampen his career, and I'm very impressed to see where this man has come from. I like both these fighters as of right now. I'm a bigger fan of Robert Whittaker, but the card says Paulo Costa for victory. Wouldn't be surprised if it's by second round knockout as well. So keep that in consideration for the co-main event. And as far as the main event is concerned for you guys, Alexander the Great Volkanovski will be defending his 45-pound title against Ilia Topuria. This fight is absolutely cracked. Let me be the first one to say this. Okay, I'm a Volk fan. I'll get to Volk in a second. Ilia Topuria, the guy he's a fucking wizard, guys. Wow. His boxing is disgusting. Some of the very best boxing in the UFC at the moment. Not going to call him the best boxer. There's a few people that would easily be, I think, that are better than him. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, Sean Strickland. There are some guys in there that can absolutely tee it up. Okay, but Ilia Topuria, I think I have him top 10 right now in the UFC as far as boxing is concerned. He's got a clean record, 14-0 undefeated, and he's just been on a revelation coming up right now, and now is his time to shine against Volk. With that being said, I think that Ilia Topuria, in his first title opportunity, may have overstepped his boundaries here. I'm a huge Volkanovski fan, and one thing that I know is that when Volk's back is against the wall, he performs better. I think that this is an example of that. I think coming off the loss to Makhachev, which is an impromptu loss, mind you, he took the fight on short notice. Yes, he got head kicked, but I would be remiss to say that any other fighter in the entire UFC would get head kicked by Islam Makhachev simply because he's a wrestler. Alright, so realistically speaking, for those of you who do not know, people with wrestling backgrounds have been able to utilize the high kick to very good advantage due to the nature of people knowing that they're wrestlers and knowing that they're going to shoot on them eventually. Makhachev, knowing that Volkanovski had already downloaded this information, says to himself, okay, maybe I'll go for a takedown early, pretend to shoot, throw the head kick once the guard drops, and bang. Textbook. Alright, we've seen it happen. Chuck Liddell did it. Randy did it, but with his hands instead of his feet, actually, ironically speaking, which, of course, you can also do it with your hands. And if you didn't know you could do it with your hands, I'm going to tell you somebody else who did it. Khabib Nurmagomedov. If you guys remember when he fought Conor McGregor, he faked the shot, overhand right, dropped McGregor. Okay, McGregor didn't drop to his knees, but he was staggered in a bad way. Go back and look at that highlight if you haven't seen it. But that was an example of what Makhachev was able to do against Volk. I don't think that speaks to the greatness of Makhachev. I think that speaks to the greatness of Volk because, again, taking that fight on short notice, losing the way he did, but handling it the way he did, also like a man and still a champion. I think that Volk has an opportunity to go back and fight Makhachev maybe one more time for the title. I get it. He's lost the last two, but the first one I think he won. Realistically speaking, if you go watch that fight, I think Volk won that fight, and I think they gave it to Makhachev because they didn't want to. I didn't think they wanted Volk to hold two titles. So that's my personal belief system on that. Volk 26-3 going against this fight against Topuria. Mind you, two of his losses are to Islam. All right, so I think, and as devastating a striker as Topuria is, and that Volkanovski has faced, I think Volk takes this fight home. I think that Ilia Topuria is. I think he's a bit inexperienced for the moment, and I'm not saying that because he doesn't have experience. I'm saying that because when you talk the kind of talk that he has talked up until this fight, you have to be able to back it up. And yes, you perhaps may have beaten the most powerful striker, in Josh Emmett in the entire UFC. That is a possibility. I'll give you that. Here's the problem: Volk is not one-dimensional. This man does it all. Okay, Alexander the Great Volkanovski trains with Israel Adesanya and with what's his name? Oh my god, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's also a monster. I think that Volk has had plenty of time to clear his head. I think that Volk is at 35 years old he's at the end of his prime, but he's still there. I think he's still moving around very well. I think his fight IQ is extremely high, and borrowing a beautifully placed shot by Ilia Topuria, I'm going to go at Volkanovski here. I would like to say by decision, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see if he connects with Ilia Topuria's jaw, just simply because of how big the fight IQ is that Alexander still possesses, guys. So that's what's going on there for UFC 298. Like I said, my picks are going to be Volk, Costa, Neal and Cejudo. Those are also some of my more the fighters that I like the most on the card. So I'm a little bit biased, but I also like what they bring to the table. I like these matchups. The prelims are on their way already, so if you want to go check that out, go check it out on ESPN. It's also on the app, guys. And that's pretty much it. I can't wait for UFC 299, and I also can't wait for UFC 300. They're probably going to be great shows. What's up, Adam? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, my friend. Yes, sir. But like I said, I can't wait for those cards to come up. So if you are a fan of martial arts, or if you're looking for a reason to start watching martial arts, guys, now is the time. Dana White likes to put on a show every time he gets closer to those hard mark numbers as far as the UFC pay-per-views are concerned, and this is where it has started. Again, 298 for the best fights we'll probably see all year, pound for pound, or at least on paper. UFC 299 is also going to host Sean O'Malley versus Vera 2, and a few other great fights that I'll come back and talk to you next week after we wrap up this one. And then UFC 300 looking to be slated as the biggest UFC card ever put together, and man, they've put together some bangers. So guys, get ready for that. Like I said, if you're an MMA fan, no time better than now to get into it and to go watch these fights, guys. So like I said, I'm going to be watching it tonight. Hit me up, guys, on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you're at. Search Corey Pools. You'll find me up there, of course. And as always, I'll be there talking sports, talking pretty much everything, pro sports, pro wrestling, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, tennis, hockey, whatever your cup of tea is, guys. I like all the flavors, okay? So, guys, for the time being, though, that's going to be it for my show here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. Thank you so much for joining me here on this evening's edition of Palm Tree Sports Radio, brought to you by IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports, guys. We'll talk All-Star Weekend and everything else as well. And yes, Adam, before we go, yes, bro, I talked about that earlier. The Panthers were wrecking the Lightning. I don't know what's going on with the Bolts, but it hurts. It hurts. The last time I saw it was 4-1 at the end of the first. Please don't tell me it's a baseball score now. Okay, please don't tell me it's a baseball score. But if you don't mind, drop that in there real quick for me. I don't have it on at the moment because it's not on my TV. But we're getting closer to the All-Star game, and that's what I'm going to be excited for between that and the UFC 298 tonight. That's what I'm going to be watching. So let me know what you're watching, Adam. Hit me up, bro. And we'll go from there. But again, like I said, guys, thank you so much for joining me here on this evening. Like I said, if you like reading, go check out that book, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Wonderful book, guys. Just want to spread the word on that. And then in the meantime, like I said, we'll be back same time, same place next week, 6 p.m. Saturday evening, and we will continue on about the world of sports here in the Sunshine State. So, 7-1 Panthers. Yeah, it's a baseball score. Dang, Bolts. Well, hey, listen, we're also bouncing back from a catastrophic injury, and even though we've been playing very good hockey recently, we still got a little bit of work to do against the top tier teams, i.e. the Bruins and the Panthers, the two teams that are ahead of us at the moment. But that's all right, though. We'll bounce back, especially as it gets closer to the playoffs, and as we continue, hopefully, to get more healthy, we should be good to go. But until then, guys, and until next week, I bid you guys farewell. Thank you again for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pools, your host. As always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Love your family. Spend time with your family. Tomorrow's not promised to you. Keep the man upstairs in your mind and your prayers at all times. He will guide your way and light your path, guys. Again, don't waste your time. And that's really what the word is. Don't waste your time, because you can't get it back. Money, you can get back. Material items, you can get back. Time, you cannot, guys. So, speaking of time, I'll see you same place, same time next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Sunday, and have a wonderful week. Peace.